admiring the wrong people is the fastest way to waste your potential. You might have heard of the saying that you're the average of the 5 closest individuals around you. And there's a twist that these 5 people change every few years. Actually, why? It's just we make these key life choices that reset our paths completely. We choose where we study, we choose where we work, we choose who we date or who we marry, and we quite often don't know what's the desired choice. We look around, we follow trends, we try to pick the most logical path, and quite often when we look at the inspiration, we look at the successful people, especially those on LinkedIn, Instagram, or younger generation on TikTok. And quite often the outcomes, they are not as we want them to be. We followed everything that this person was saying, and something is totally different. And there's this saying that be careful with your prayers because they will be realized. And I've noticed that quite often we see a narrow version of someone else's life, and we think they've made it. We need to kind of replicate this. But once we walk a few miles to this direction, we realize that there were also some hidden trade-offs, and that the life is more holistic and the life is more complex. And after a few reality checks, and even getting to know some of these people I admired personally, I realized there's something hard to admit, but most of the role models I once admired, by getting to know them and looking at them, they have totally different lives when you look holistically at them, and I wouldn't like to trade lives with them. And that led me to the confronting question. Basically, what if most of these so-called role models are just good at branding of one thing, but not good at life? Therefore, today I want to share with you some of my life story and some of my thoughts from my friends. Later, I'll elaborate on what LinkedIn role models are doing that can mislead us. Then I will focus on what makes a good role model. And at the end, I will try to lead you into the direction how to find the role model that can inspire you to reach your goals. Because role models are important, but it's also very important to choose them smartly. So just to start with my personal life story, I've noticed at different stages of my life, I had different role models, or I can call it sometimes mentors I wanted to have. And between the age of 19 and 25, I basically idealized consultants and investment bankers. There was this thing in business schools in the UK, but also I think in Poland, that going to consulting and investment banking was a thing. These people, were earning high salaries. They were leading lots of big transactions, with lots of big names. They raised millions on dollars for their startup. They had I would say, extremely impressive LinkedIn posts, and always seemed to be in different kind of places. They were in New York, in Dubai, in Bali, in Berlin, and I was working really hard to have an opportunity to work in the same companies, to quite often work under them, and being in these international places and spending evenings with these key figures, I would call from LinkedIn, shared with me lots of, I would say, insights I didn't expect. So behind the scenes, what I've noticed just about these people is that quite often they have broken relationships with their families. Just what was the most shocking to me, sometimes we're doing projects until midnight, which is already a red flag. But at midnight, they were sitting in the office when they had very small children, for example, at home, or their wives were getting their first or second children born. And that was like a question mark. Okay, why do these people not spend their time with the families, but actually were spending lots of time at work? And I've noticed a lot of these people are just burned out. Even the top players, when they work until this midnight, I've noticed, they just not who I expected them to be, there was also this kind of misleading work ethic, that, for example, sometimes I was going to sleep at 2 a.m. and I was getting Slack messages with something like, hey Jacob, can you do the presentation? And already at 7 a.m. At the breakfast, someone was asking me if the presentation is ready. So I was thinking, oh wow, so these dream consulting partners, are they really a thing? And then I've noticed there's lots of success, and you can reach a success for even a short period of time, but often they also crash, lots of people after a few years, despite being for 2 or 3 years extremely good consultants, partners, investment bankers, whatever, later on they wanted to exit, or they want to do something different just because of working hours, the company was not appreciating them, and then they were struggling to find also places outside of work. Which was also like interesting. Why do these people that were so created in the media have had such a big problems with also getting exits? But then I went on another side. I was thinking, okay, maybe it's consulting and investment banking only. Maybe there is a different world, and the world which we're talking about is actually, I call it LinkedIn or AT. And there were these LinkedIn gods, because when you're looking for a different scenario, looking for a different career path, you're looking on LinkedIn. And then there's this Forbes friendly under 30 guys. There is the guys who collected 5-10 million euro for their startups. And then I basically also learned that there is this second maybe category, and then I can tell you about like the insights which I had. There's this LinkedIn angel investors that they, not the one with the wings, but they were the kind of with capital, at least that they claim to have. And some acted like experts at the conferences. Oh my God, we're so smart in, B2B AI SaaS because we invested for half an hour in some kind of a startup. And then I've noticed that they have kind of authority, and I was interested, okay, maybe this is the successful path. But after talking to them, I've noticed that this is the opposite. Quite often these LinkedIn gods, if you take a look at them, they burn the money. From Forbes friendly under 30, this is a pretty common thing internationally, but in Poland, where I'm from, there's like lots of people that should not be on this list, just because they don't have companies anymore, or they burn their cash, or they are just bad individuals. Abusing their partners, because I know it from private stories. And these LinkedIn angels, like I was saying, they did one investment half an hour, and then they proclaimed to be B2B AI SaaS experts. And what I've noticed is like the more I'm talking with this kind of high profile figures, the more I found myself disappointed and more rather than inspired. And then something shifted, because I started talking to lots of different kind of people, and there were some people that helped me. And interestingly, these were not people that were famous. They weren't loud. They were not in media. But they were often a few years ahead of me in the terms of stage of their company, not in the terms of age, because quite often they were older, but even just they set up their company 2 or 3 years before. And they were still close enough to remember the pain. They were still close enough that could give me a tangible steps how to reach my goals. They had just answers to what I needed. And then I've noticed these were the people that really, on the micro level, gave me the decisions, but on the macro level really changed my life. And these were the people that changed me, So there is this contrast that I've noticed, and it's very interesting to share, that from one side, I admire someone, I admired at least, and then these people turn out to be a disappointment, but then I appreciate another person that I never expected them to come to me. So firstly, let me maybe address this topic with answering the question. So what is wrong with LinkedIn influencers, and how they can mislead you in career choices? So why it happens, and why you should maybe critically approach it, because then it can help you with choosing who you want to surround yourself with, or who kind of post you want to read. So the problem with many successful people online is not that they are evil. They're not bad people. It's just that they represent often an illusion. So what is wrong with these LinkedIn influencers? I have a few points, but firstly, they've built a brand, but not a body of work. So they can be called AI expert, but you can change it in the title of a LinkedIn within like 2 seconds. I can do it by myself. But they've never actually written a single line of code. They spoke at the conferences. They repeatedly were saying, "Oh my God, we're so smart at this." And you're gonna notice that if you appear one conference, another conference wants you because there's a narrow set of experts, and they quite often invite you to just, another conference, right? So don't be led by illusion. Secondly, what's quite interesting to me is that raising money or working in corporation consulting doesn't mean that you can build a business from scratch. Where usually, if you're listening to this podcast, you're looking probably for some change that is tangible, very small step. And then these big funding rounds, often they're seen as a badge of success. That's you kind of, it's successful anyway. You were able to convince a few people that there's a vision, and then your vision will be realized in the next steps or in a few years. But the problem is that it doesn't mean that you can build a business, because raising money is just you get an amount of money, 1 or 2 million on your bank account. But right now you need to set up an operating team, you need to build a product, you need to commercialize whatever you're doing, and this is a skill. And this skill quite often is hard to acquire. And what I've even noticed, people who are very skilled in building businesses, quite often they don't want to go to media because they already know that they have something that is of a high value. Thirdly, these people from LinkedIn, they quite often might live by the values that are completely different than yours. It's just because you've seen someone who was successful in one thing. It doesn't mean that in their private life or regarding their friends, regarding lifestyle, regarding sports, food, whatever, they're aligned with your values. And it's very important that to define what your values are, but also then critically approach, okay, is this what this person is telling me? So for example, going for steaks for business meetings and I'm vegan, whether it really aligns with who you are. And the fourth point about these LinkedIn influencers is that they're impressive in one thing, but they're mess at others. I don't undermine that you can be an expert in one thing if you're doing for a specific amount of time with a number of people that are experts around you, and then you have time to implement. But it's good to have this even LinkedIn influencers to look from one side, but from one narrow, I would say, part of life, but the life is more complicated. And the role model to me is basically someone who you want to holistically replicate, kind of, or you want to follow their path, because they they crafted the life that is so successful and they're so happy as individuals. And the fifth thing, which I think that the LinkedIn influencers maybe they can mislead you sometimes, is that their advice applies to their word, their timing, but not always to yours. Most people, they share their experience, but assuming that it's universally true is not always right. They might have different just timing when they started doing the business. There was a different industry. They have maybe different personality. They had different resources. Maybe they're from bigger or like more wealthy family. You don't know it. It's good to have it as an indication, but following their path blindly might actually lead you away from what you really want. So just to maybe recap, but also be honest about this, of course, there are exceptions. Some high-profile people are generous, grounded, genuinely helpful, and inspiring. They are on LinkedIn as well, and they probably post some of the posts. But speaking from my personal experience, I've had more disappointments than breakthroughs when reaching out to high-status figures, and the hype that just didn't match my vibe and the expectations from the media. So if you ever felt disappointed after meeting with someone you once admired, you're not alone. And it doesn't mean that role models are useless. It just means that we need better filters who we choose. And that's why we can stop here and think about this question. So what makes a person a real role model? So here are some of my personal thoughts, who I think for you, maybe for your friends, what kind of traits or characteristics good role models have at this stage of your career, at this time actually. So firstly, they're just a few steps ahead of your journey. So you want someone who still remembers what it was like to be where you are, not someone 20 years away from from when you are at this point of your career. If you're a student, you probably want some early stage founder. You want probably someone who is a young consultant. You want someone who can still tell you, for example, how to go through the interviews. If you're founder, then you want someone probably who has done business for 2 or 3 years. They've gone through fundraising, they've gone through commercialization. Even more, you want someone, if it's in very specific niche, let's say B2B, I don't know, healthcare, you want someone from B2B healthcare to really help you, because probably not only they can share some knowledge with you, but at the same time they have a network and they can connect you to the right individuals. Secondly, I think they can still get their hands dirty. I think that if you think about like just this role models, you want someone who is still in the business and still has this level of detail that can help you. They still experiment, they fail, they adapt. They're still in the mindset of just doing stuff. Because if you're gonna meet someone at the very different stage of their career, let's say if they exited, they just have a different motivation to help you, because quite often going shoulder to shoulder, for this combat, and I've noticed from my personal experience with lots of startup founders, is just easier and people are more willing to help you than if they're already exited and they're thinking about some, I don't know, holidays in Asia instead of being a help to you when you really need it at this point of life. Then thirdly, they give you the hard truths, not the dopamine. I think what I really like and I appreciate it in these people is that don't always just expect that someone is going to tell you just positive things, or if they're going to tell you only positive things, that's not good. You want someone that critically can go in depth into the question which you have, look at the alternative scenarios and help you to address this problem. And they push you at the same time to reach the solution, and they are supportive, not criticizing and telling and leaving you without any kind of guidance, but they criticize you, then they show you what's the next stage or the path or the goal, how you can reach the next stage and the kind of solution for your problem. And then they don't have to praise you always. That's very important as well. Fourthly, I think what I highly recommend is they live the life that you actually would want. So once you talk to them, you're gonna notice, okay, that's not just professionally but personally, you like them. They have nice balance, they have nice relationships, people around them are just cool, I can call it. I have this freedom, and this freedom that you might have wanted. And the fifth one, which is quite often undermined, but I think it's extremely important, they actually care and they are genuinely nice people. There's this quote from Warren Buffett that you cannot do good business with bad people, and I highly, highly agree with this. Thus, if you feel that someone has a good vibe, if you feel that someone really likes you and they are genuinely asking you the questions, regardless of your background, they really want you at least to listen to you for 5 minutes. That's rare, but that's the kind of people you want to surround yourself with. Because these are the people that give you the feeling of attention, and then you feel the most appreciated. So just to come slowly to an end, probably asking yourself, okay, so I talked a lot about these people who, or I little bit of complaint about these people who are from LinkedIn and they have some negative traits, and then I've noticed what are the good people, but actually how to find these role models. So how do you find the mentors or role models that actually impact positively your career and your life? And where are they? So here's what I recommend. First, start asking yourself a question. Who was the most impressive person I talked to in the last months? Who has this life I would trade places with fully for all aspects of life? Because we might have even met someone who, by accident on a conference, going for some house party, someone who's extremely inspirational, someone who is just a good person, someone who had a good vibe. Think about someone who had even lots of money. He had lots of employees. At least he seemed a nice guy or a nice girl. And who is this person? And if you haven't found it, then go one layer deeper and start going to these places where these people are. So if you're defined actually what you're looking for right now in your life. So if you, as an example, want to become a doctor, go for doctor conferences. If you want to do some coaching, find coaching meetups, and then ask around. I think what's very important is just go to this conference, go to some friends and say, hey, I'm looking for someone who's built the business in this, or a navigated business, or navigate their career in, I don't know, medicine. Do you know someone who is the most impressive person, who's a real deal? Who can I draw some inspiration from? And the third part, which I always recommend, I think post with Instagram, post with LinkedIn. It's just, if you're not going to tell openly to the people who are you looking for, they're not going to know. And quite often by accident, you're going to notice in some side conversation, someone's going to mention, hey, there's this Anna, and Anna once posted that she's looking for, I don't know, a surgeon in X, and actually I think you're the right person. Should I maybe connect you guys? And these people quite often, they want to help, because that was supposed to be my point. Reach out. Don't be afraid. People want to help. Send messages, something like, hey, I don't know, Jack, I admire what you do, and this. It's just, I've been interested in this topic for some while, and I would really appreciate for 15 minutes of your time, because I'm wondering how to navigate my career, and you probably seem more knowledgeable and 2 years ahead, and I would be really glad if you answered me and we could schedule a short call. And quite often it works. I've noticed that people don't want to only people don't only want to help people who are poor. Quite often the opposite. If you have someone who is extremely motivated, a top student, a top colleague that wants to go to the next stage of their career, that's where lots of people want to help and just guide you and just push you into this direction. And maybe the last point regarding when you're doing it, be valuable and treat yourself as a partner. I think quite often, if you want to have a role model, this role model can treat you, I would say, even equally, but try to position yourself as a partner. Don't position yourself as a child. Don't position yourself as a student. Be something like, I'm just younger. I feel I have motivation. I just don't know the way. Can you help me to get there? And you want to also, as a role model, that's my expectation, but also from my, I would say, mentoring experience, you want to more help someone who can see that can deal with the stuff, is very professional, is very mature, and just helps you to also attract, that you don't need to always just chase. you can just attract, how they were saying in lots of, relationship coaching courses or YouTube videos. But attract as well. You can be a very worthy individual, and you can also attract role models around you. So maybe slowly to conclude, there's nothing wrong with wanting inspiration, and the right people can really elevate you to new heights. You can jump a few levels. But also for the people that they've been watching the podcasts, there is the question that can come, is that, do I need to, as of now, find new role models? So we can start by asking ourselves the question, actually, what do I want as of now? And then, is there someone that is really advising me to get there? If not, at least who do I admire that has it? And why do I admire these people? Do these people that are my inspiration, are they giving me the right path? And if I copied their life, would I be happy and extremely glad if I had the same setup like they do? And then if something feels off, it's probably time to upgrade your role models. So I would just say, don't look just for status and media fame. Look for more like tangible steps that can help you change. And here's the challenge. This week, I want you to reach out to one person you truly admire, but you never had the courage to do it. Not because they're loud, but just because someone is real and someone that can really help you to achieve some kind of a goal. And either you'll be very disappointed because there was someone that you admired for a long time and turns out to be different, or maybe, just maybe, this person can really change your life and change the next step which you're doing. So let me know in the comments who is the unexpected person that had a huge influence on you and why. And if you like this episode, subscribe and share it with someone who's looking for a better role model, the kind that actually moves the needle. Thank you.